What's going on, gamers? So this is an important video right here. Shuhei Yoshida spills the beans again, and that's one thing I like about him. But things that he says, it reminds me of what he was saying before. What's interesting is he's kind of been putting it underneath people's nose for a while. And I mean the $80 price tag and the hardware. This is going to get interesting because he comes out and he makes it clear that he already knew about the agenda before Nintendo even did it, and he's pretty much shocked that it was Nintendo because there was other people that were supposed to go first. And it was like I was telling people before, this is an industry tactic. Clutch said it too. Don't take another problem and grab another problem and think that's going to make it better. No, they're all problems independently. That's the way we should look at it individually. Like, do you decide to do that? Because let me give you a certain example. I may do this on a separate video. EA has suggested it has no plans to raise game prices yet, despite others doing so. We have reflected no changes in our current strategy at this point. EA said that. I think that literally says a lot. You want more blatant, obvious answers? Let's look right here. Definitely when the tariffs are paused in the USA. And the worst move Microsoft could have made was making up an imaginary price. That's where I tell people that pissed me off the most. Recent debates I got into, because I'm like, I want you to listen to me. Sony didn't even do USA. Nintendo did not jack the price up of the Switch 2. It's $449. That was the original price, which is okay because the Steam Deck is $399 and that came out years ago. Their handheld is way better and you can dock it and it actually has games around it. So we're not talking about hardware here, even though they're jacking up the price of the hardware. We'll get to that in a second. Shuhei's talking about just in general, video games specifically, digitally being 80 outside of the tariffs is because the developers are doing that. The publishers are doing that because they think the games are too expensive. Now, I will tell you, Sony, possibly, but that's your fault. That's not our fault. Microsoft, get the hell out of here. Once again, like I said, if you put a pause on something, nobody has the prices, y'all. Let's just think about this outside of the gaming perspective, neutrally. If I came to you and told you I want to charge you this much now because of tariffs, and you knew that they paused for 90 days so nobody has a real price, then that's how you knew those people were shady, corrupt, untrustworthy, and that they will make up a bunch of excuses. And that you would say, but you didn't say that when $69.99 happened, and you didn't say that when you never dropped the $499 console that's been that same price for almost 5 years now. Then you decided to jack it up later. Those are all independent, separate problems that people decide to choose who are leading a company. And it needs to be talked about. So like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think. I had to talk about this first. Are we ready to get into this? Because he's about to tell you some stuff. All right. Hello and welcome to the PlayStation Inside. This article makes a culmination of 4.5 years of work on the site. Since December 3rd, 2020, over 50 people have joined the team. We've published 3 magazines, 2 documentaries, and now this interview with Shuhei Yoshida, former president of Sony. This is in France, by the way, and a legendary figure of video games industry in Japan and around the world. When Shuhei Yoshida agreed to grant us this interview, we find it hard to believe for media like ours, which is largely dedicated to all things PlayStation, to be able to talk Shuhei Yoshida for an hour is an incredible and priceless opportunity. So they like Sony a lot. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, you could be a fanboy. It's when you start being a toxic fanboy, projecting delusion onto people and misleading people that it's a problem. It's also a perfect tribute to the name, PlayStation Inside. Yes, we're announcing it here for the very first time in a few days' time. So we see this up. Yoshida's going to be focusing on this. He's going to be putting out information here. PlayStation Inside will be no more, and long live PSI. With this shortening of our name, which we'll explain in due course, we want to usher in a new era. So basically, we get the point here, how this happened. So let's get down to the questions here. As you see right here, first French media outlet you've chosen to talk to, obviously. But let's get down to the real stuff. Okay, let's start with Nintendo Switch 2. Is there a game on Nintendo Switch 2 you're looking forward to? I'm very intrigued by the Dusk Blood. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me when you think about Sony and Bloodborne. I mean, I could see him being somewhat attracted to that. I'm curious to see what From Software will do with the Switch version on a technical level, and it's always been interesting to see what the company can come up with, especially Elden Ring. Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, the meat of the video right here. Let me get off camera real quick just so we can read this. I'm going to zoom in for you guys so you're on the phone. It looks a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to highlight all of this for you guys. Speaking of the Switch 2, we've seen Nintendo will be raising the prices of its games. He said games, right? We're talking about games here. Just as PlayStation did in 2020, what do you think of this decision? And do you think it will make it easier for other publishers such as Rockstar to do the same or go even further? That's an interesting question. Let's read this very carefully. I think it was going to happen sooner or later. Maybe not from Nintendo. Guys, This is very important right here to read. We're going to talk about this little highlight right here. I think it was going to happen sooner or later. Shuhei Yoshida is a nice guy, right? We know this. Just like he wouldn't like be mean to somebody. He's just that type of person. Maybe not from Nintendo. He's giving you hints here. He's still playing that game. You got to remember who he still worked for. You got to remember what website he's on. And you got to remember what he was saying. But he says that it was going to happen sooner or later, meaning that he already knew that. They told you about the rising production and cost of video games. They said that multiple times. I told you to go support remasters because games are too expensive. They can't afford the budgets. They're going to PC. Microsoft's going to PC and all the other platforms. You see that even without tariffs and without Nintendo, they were going to find a way to justify it by that reason alone and say, we need to raise the price up of video games. We're not even talking about hardware. That's a totally different choice. And this is what I want people to understand. Microsoft made multiple anti-consumer moves that are terrible for the position that they're in. Being in America, too. We're talking about the American aspect. You jacked up the price of against your competitor who's clearly stomping you, and he's curb stomping you into the ground in the PlayStation world. They did not even jack the price up. That makes you look stupid, makes you look like a fool. Evidence is consistently coming out to show that this is what you did. EA has denied it. EA, man, why are they taking advantage? Because it's bullshit. And the people who were complaining about production budget costs was only Sony. Microsoft never once said a single thing about that. Damn, again, you know what I like doing? I like telling the truth. I like getting to the heart of the matter. I like putting ignorant people in their place that don't know what they're talking about. I think it was going to happen sooner or later, maybe not from Nintendo. He didn't expect that. He didn't see that coming. So what does that mean? They decided to do that themselves. But they didn't do hardware because they don't know the price of America. See, that's not being stupid in front of people. If I went and jacked up the prices in front of y'all right now and I was running a company and the tariffs are paused for 90 days and people come to me and say, bro, are you dumb? Nobody has a price yet. You just made that up. But yet there's so many dumb people in the world. Excuse me, I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm just saying that are sitting over there saying dumb stuff like it's because of Nintendo. It's like, you're stupid. If you were intelligent, you wouldn't say that because you would be saying the same thing I'm saying right now and you would realize these situations. Somebody wouldn't have to come tell you that. Now, for the people that didn't say that are learning, that's different. You didn't jump the gun in your ignorance, attacking people, calling people fanboys that were not fanboys, and saying stupid stuff and just going off all on the wrong manner without understanding that your mode of thought is completely correct. That's not why these companies are making these decisions. It's because they're greedy. So let's continue now. But it was going to happen eventually. He said it again. Not only did he say it, once this right here, I think it was going to happen sooner or later, but it was going to happen eventually. He's saying no matter what. And then here he comes again. I guarantee we know what's coming. We live in contrasting times where inflation, guys, I can't. Because if I had $100 in 1994 and I took that same $100 in today, it's still $100. Inflation's not helping me out. So what, you want the corporations to get more greedy because of that? Shut the hell up. I don't think so. I'm not playing that game. I'm not saying inflation can't exist, but let me tell you something. It's more artificial and superficial than you think because it's made up by a system that they made up. It's artificial. I'm just going to give you the truth straight up. Don't spend the rest of your life worrying about it because it's not real. Okay, it's blah, blah, blah at that point. Okay, where inflation is real and significant, but people expect games that are ever more ambitious and therefore expensive to develop to cost the same. Okay. Now that I could say, I see you doing that. That's not artificial. That's a problem that you have. It's not a gamer community problem because we're not doing that. That's what you're deciding to do. You decided to spend that much money. You decided to focus on those hyper details. That's not anybody's problem but your own. You need to find that balance within. Get on that tightrope because you're far off on the left or on the right consistently. Don't go too far left. Don't go too far right. Get in the middle. Walk down that tightrope. You know what I mean? Try to find that balance. That's one thing that Nintendo does very well. They'll make way more profit than you because they balance their budget and their games are better with lesser technology. I'm just trying to point something out to people. It's just like saying, I'll take the handicap settings and still beat you in a fighting game. Yeah, I am better than you. So, you know what I mean? It's not an argument. Okay, and he says, but people expect games that are ever more ambitious and therefore expensive to develop to cost the same. Nobody said that. I'm just saying that's your problem. It's an impossible equation. Everything in video games today is more advanced and more technologically demanding than ever before. It's interesting that you say that, but yet these developers are worse because of these idiots, because of politics, because of unnecessary stuff that's not gaming related, because of just rushing out games on the market, unfinished games, better technology that you've ever had. I agree with him. More advanced and more technology demanding, but how is the technology getting better, but not the developers? All this AI slop. Okay, and therefore requires more resources. Each publisher or manufacturer sets the price of these games. Let's read that again. Each publisher, though we know this, but we need to do this for new people so you can never attack developers, or manufacturer sets the prices of his games. Not Nintendo developers, not Microsoft developers, not Sony developers. Publishers, suits and ties, and manufacturers. So who's manufacturing the game? Right? You see what I mean? And then they ship it to Walmart and all that, and they got to get their cut and all that. If we're talking about physical, digital, you're not going to get affected because you can't tariff a digital. So you do that because you wanted to. Definitely being a $1 trillion company. And you're trying to get the best pro consumer where you build up this perfect momentum to go into the next generation. You did everything pro consumer, then you drop that hybrid Steam model. And at least I can say, well, man, you did everything you could. You did the best thing this time. You didn't be dumb. Nope. Blew it within half a year already. Morons. Okay. Everything in today is more expensive. Each publisher or manufacturer sets its own prices, of course, but in the end, the heart of the matter lies in production costs. And that's why industry actors are so keen to diversify their revenues in order to continue producing the AAA games that the public buys before anything else. Basically, the proliferation of remasters and remakes doesn't really stem from any kind of nostalgia or desire to bring games up to date. Did you see what he just said? But it's kind of easy solution to bring in profits that ultimately help finance new games. He just told you about Sony's remaster slopping. Don't speak for other people, but he said it from himself. Remasters and remakes doesn't really stem from any kind of nostalgia or desire to bring games up to date. What do you mean up to date? Why would you not want to do that? But more like easy money, easy scams. Hey, if I'm reading this wrong, please tell me, because I'm telling you, I be reading between the lines. I be reading things deeply. You talking to somebody that's incredibly deep outside of the gaming sphere. So, yeah, I kind of think that what he's saying is that I'm going to punish you and jack up the price because I can't manage my finances, and I'm supposed to be professional and leaders and one of the most intelligent industries in the world. That ultimately help finance new games because the games I develop can't do it on my platform. Only Nintendo. Yeah. The same goes for PC ports. I'm not particularly bothered by this because these ports, remakes, and remasters are mostly made by support studios. Sony does not want to get involved in it. Like Nix's software, we know, so the studios developing new games are relieved of the burden. I can understand that. So I don't know if Rockstar will be jumping at the chance to set the price of GTA at 90 or more. Come on, bro. You know they're going to do it. So this is being nice to speak with your currency, but the situation is this, and we could even add subscription platforms and games as a service, which will be providing huge revenues in their own right, and also help to finance AAA down the line. In any case, a balance must be found between production costs and game prices. Agreed. GTA 6 will obviously be a case in point, but if you take example of Claire, the game is just phenomenally visual. Here we go, giving the love. Despite the fact that the team only had around 30 people, this is one of the ways forward. I agree with him. That's why I said that being supported and successful is very important for the health of gaming industry, to show people something. Well, I like Nintendo succeeding because I don't need this budget. I don't need realistic hyper detailed graphics. I don't need all this technology. I'm going to show you what gaming is about, and I'm going to do it on handicapped settings. And I'm going to show you didn't even use these settings this way. See, it all depends on the individuals. I can give 100 people right now the same PC. But are the results going to be the same? It's up to the player. This is where you realize that science has no power on its own. It can only be useful if there's something living in front of it. It gives you the idea of it being a tool. It is. Because if you remove all life, it's just sitting there. Money even has no use. So How do you want to use the tool? How do you want to manage things? Use the tool. I tell people that use the tool, don't be the tool. So the idea of moving forward with tighter teams and budgets, like you said right here, without compromising quality and finding that fine line of balance and maximizing everything off of that, and the whole world loves it. That's how you know what you're doing. You have no layoffs, no none of that. We know where we see that in the gaming community. So like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about that. This other interview is just basically talking about AI and other things. And it is nice because he basically makes it clear that AI is going to be very good only when it's supporting the human being and not trying to replace the human heart and all these other things. And that's very true because you can't replace human emotion. The creator created that soul. You can't put a soul in a robot. It's a robot. And eventually one day it has no soul and no feeling. So you got to be careful because you can be in a termination world. So yeah, be careful about history repeating itself. Well, we're not going to go too far back in history, but there we have it. All right, y'all. Peace out. Have a great day.